Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. With me in the studio, I still have Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Professor David Awurawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, Nigeria. And Chike Ogia, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State, and Managing Director of Mark Foley Limited. Well, quickly, gentlemen, we've taken on about three major topics. The Osun governorship election, which resulted in a change of administration, the Muslim controversy and the status of our democracy, and also Nelson Mandela Day, which comes up tomorrow, a celebration of the heroism, the significance, the symbolism of Nelson Mandela around the issues of social justice, change, progress, and humanism. Let me start with you, Chike Ogia, as I had announced before we went on that break.
That's fine. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you for having us again. I think I'll leave the issue of Mandela to Prof to handle. That's just down his alley, so he can tell us all that. Let me concern ourselves with, the very epochal events of yesterday night through this morning that we all witnessed. I haven't slept a wink because I was monitoring that election all through. And just like I think it was Mr. Itodo spoke about, there were great takeaways that I saw myself. Yes, INEC seemed to be up to speed, getting itself in terms of technology, getting more comfortable. And of course, we are beginning to reap the rewards of those amendments we made to the Electoral Act about transmission of results and all of that, of course, which makes it much more awkward and more difficult for people to rig elections, for ballot boxes to be stolen and all those kind of things we used to have. But then, if you ask me, I would still say it's still a far way from Uhuru, so to speak. Why I say so is that you can imagine the amount of personnel, both security and in terms of the umpire INEC, that was committed for these elections. Because, it's a one-off staggered election. It was isolated, and that was good. But would we have the luxury of this in the general elections? That, for me, is the big problem and the big poser. So I don't think, we should expect exactly what we saw in Osun to play out nationally, in 2023. Obviously, there's still enough time for INEF to keep retooling. At least they seem to be on the right trajectory now and, getting better. Same thing, he talked about investing in big issues. We need to leave this very mundane kind of politics we play in Nigeria where we just come and it's all about Emilio Con and all those kind of talk. We are beyond that now. But as we speak now, there are people who are saying, oh, we have a dancing senator, he's going to dance in and out of the government house. What will he do after 4 years? If you ask me, that's not the point. If God gave him a talent to dance, I don't see why anybody should be bothered with that. But at the same time, I believe there should be much more to him than dancing. And he should come and tell the people of Osun what to expect so they can hold him accountable after 4 years if, indeed he has met up with his promises and what exactly he stands for. Because, yes, like we rightly said, in Nigeria, Pastor Okoche did allude to that. It's all about parties. We vote for the parties and all that. But really, since the parties don't seem to have a manifesto that they stand on, I can assure you now that what is happening, that people are looking at candidates. What happened with the Adelekes, take it from me, is strictly an Adeleke contract with the people of Osun. It had nothing to do with the PDP. If the PDP wants to be confused and deceived that they have made any giant strides, they should keep working. Because I can tell you what happened was purely an Adeleke affair. This family has invested so much in the people in that place, even right from the elder brother. That's why you're talking about Christian, Muslim, and all that. I mean, Siaka was a Muslim, and they are brothers. So you can see they are both sides in the family. They have
their father was a Muslim, their mother was a Christian.
So they have even gone over that. Those are mundane issues for them. They have transited that to connecting with their people. And that is what is happening. If you notice, the real godfather is really David's father, the one nobody sees. He is the one that is working the magic. Davido's father, Deji Adeleke, that is the guy.
Pacific Merchant Bank.
That's right. So let's go back to issues. Like I said, we need that. And we also need to, this terrible menace of vote buying, you know, because it's such a silent crime and it takes place off radar. I don't know how anybody can deal with that. But the only thing I can say is that we keep, you know, the talk before was tell the people, take the money, but vote your conscience. But we'll get to a stage where we don't even need to do that. Tell the people, educate the people that how much do they want to pay you that you want to sell your destiny for 4 years. And the people very soon, no matter how poor, I mean, I know it's a terrible time, not even just for Nigeria, in the world, because it is that poverty that the politicians cash in on anyway. We need to transcend that and get out of that. So if those things can be done, then we begin to look forward to obviously the security agencies should be alive, and wherever that raise is head, they should arrest people and all of that. Then we should begin to look at better elections like we saw. Then in the case of the vex Muslim ticket, that has been, you know, so many things have come out of that. One of the most, what would I say now, instructive ones was a video I watched that was done by a man called Daniel Bwaya. Daniel was obviously a very strong member of the APC. I'm aware that they were thinking of a major role for him in the campaign when the campaign was to be inaugurated. And immediately this thing was done, I have a lot of respect for that young man. He came out and he said, no, don't tell us you are choosing a Muslim ticket, because what you are telling us that there's no competent Northern Christian person. Daniel Boya himself, why can't he be the vice presidential candidate himself? He's from the North. And there are so many others. And don't tell us that you are choosing a Muslim to complement Asiwaju, who is supposed to be a Muslim, because the Northern Muslim will not recognize the Southern Muslim. Because if that is so, then I can assure you the Northern Muslim will not go for a spare tire Muslim when they can go for the real thing. Atiku Abubakar is there. He's on the ticket of the PDP. So why go for a Shetima when they can? So whichever way, the APC has not played smart politics there, as far as I'm concerned. But just as what we saw with Emilio Kon, because I was one of the people that, although I have a great respect in terms of his strategy as a consummate politician, that is Asiwaju. I remember that there was wondering, was he unraveling or what, when all that was happening in Ogun State? You know, he ended up calling my friend Elei and all of that, right? But that is not even the point. In the larger context of what has happened, so he won the thing. So maybe it was some kind of strategy. So who knows? Maybe Asiwaju can also pull this hat from the bag, and with his Muslim ticket, he can get the whole Muslim North, because some people argue that anyway, it is the northern governors that will do the work for them. We need to see all of that. But I think in a multicultural, multilingual, multi-everything society like we have in Nigeria, and coming from the backdrop of the kind of president we have just had, where the country has not been this divided. Maybe if there was President Abiola and Vice President Kingibe in 1993, and we had been doing this up till now, I'm sure maybe the issue of religion would be dead. You know?
Okay. Just to complete the picture,
yes.
It's not only Daniel Bwala.
Yes.
There's also Senator Elisha Abo,
yes,
who resigned from the Tinubu campaign,
yes,
because of the Muslim ticket.
Yes, even
Babachi Lawal, former secretary to the government of the Federation. There is Tonye Princewell.
That's right.
In River State. There is Kenneth Okonkwo,
that's
the
right,
actor,
very
who is
intelligent,
a member
very
of the
intelligent
APC.
I listen to him.
You know, there are many others.
Many others, and there are many others that will come.
Including those under the banner of the Northern APC Christians.
That's right.
Professor Akinterenwa, let me come to you.
When you and Bola Tinubu will go back to 1993 to draw attention to the fact that afterwards, King Jibe, a Muslim vice running mate of MK Abiola, they easily forget, you easily forget that the dynamics, the factors for strategic calculations then were completely different from the factors that do exist as at today, completely. But I do agree with the three speakers and with Ogia for providing one set of factors that clearly explain the attitudinal disposition of Bola Tinubu. But I want to give you a completely set different factors why I believe that Bola Tinubu has engaged in very wrong strategic calculations. You see, the problem is not, strictly speaking, Muslim ticket. Muslim ticket is just the coverlet, covering the issue. You see, for instance, the problem I think Shetima and Tinubu have to address is the question of Nigeria. Which Nigeria? What Nigeria? Where Nigeria? Because Jagaban is on record at a point in time to have said that he did not believe in one Nigeria. I say he did not. Probably today he has changed. But by that time, he did not believe in Nigeria. Now, as of today, it is not even clear whether Jagaban himself supports the Yoruba agenda, because the Yoruba have the agenda. So when I am talking about Nigeria in this case, we never can tell the direction of, Senator Bola Tinubu. Now, when you take his running mate, the problem is not different. The running mate, and unless his name is different from the one that I have seen in the literature, there is, for instance, this Shetima, who is on record to have been playing host to Boko Haramis. Now, if, for instance, it is the same Shetima who, for instance, will be playing host to wanted criminals, if it's the same Shetima who is supporting the Boko Haramis, now, if he's elected and he comes to power, what will be his attitudinal disposition to the anti-Boko Haram struggle? I don't know the answer. But you see, the issue is that Senator Tinubu and the former governor of Borno State, Shetima, they are both Muslims. We are not sure whether they are going to be extremist Muslims, whether they are going to be moderate Muslims, because our fear, for me as an analyst, for instance, is that they have made it clear to Nigerians that there will be an Islamization agenda. They have made it clear that there is going to be a Fulanization agenda. We only need to go back to Bala Mohammed, the governor of Bauchi, who told us that, look, we have forests unoccupied in Nigeria, and that efforts are currently being made to make Nigeria a home for the Fulanis in West Africa, in Central Africa, and that they can come. Please, let me remind everybody again, this was an interview granted to Channels Television. He said it live to the whole world. And in this case, you will see that from this perspective, having that particular agenda may not make Muslim sellable. Very briefly, you see, Issa Aremu told us much about, Nelson Mandela. I will just make one statement that, look, my own problem is not whether Nelson Mandela represents democracy or not. The major problem is that the international community saw Nelson Mandela as an individual who solved their problem. The international community engaged in wickedness in South Africa. They enslaved Africa, apartheid. But now when they saw Nelson Mandela, who had the spirit of forgiveness, who is not going to create any problem, etc., all along. So they now want to preach the sermon of fairness, of tolerance, and that's why the UN will come out with that particular agenda. And finally, you see, Pastor Okoti said we should jettison the presidential system. I agree with him. Presidential system is very expensive, one. Secondly, it confers unlimited powers on the president. The way, look at the UK now. If you have a parliamentary system that is manageable, in which case the government must come before the people for accountability purposes, it will be easier. But we are engaged in a presidential system, borrowed presidential system. If we had even adopted a semi-presidential system, like it is in many countries of the world, like in France, it is still understandable. But you have a full presidential system that we do not even understand the mechanisms, how it is done. No. In the US, for instance, we are finding it difficult in Nigeria to talk about state police. State police is in the presidential system there. Local police is there. So why are you adopting a system you do not understand, you are incapable of implementing, and you are insolvent to the extent of not even being able to do so? Look at ASU, for example. You have ASU, education. And then the government can have the luxury. The party system will have the luxury. All the people can pay 100 million to purchase just an application form. And then you say you are in a presidential system. Most unfortunate.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Akintenwa. Before I come to you, Professor David Awurawa, Chike Ogea here wants to say something about Pastor Chris Okoche's contributions. If you can keep it brief.
Yes.
I see Professor Awurawa is waiting.
Very, very brief. I just wanted to say I agree to most of what the pastor's views are in terms of Nigeria running a very fraudulent constitution, in terms of Nigeria's constitution not being autochthonous and therefore not taking care of our own peculiarities. I also adopt what Professor Akintenwa just said now in terms of the presidential system being a very expensive system to run. But the only thing I see in what the learned pastor said was he wants us to stop and have an interim government or something. The law does not allow, and he's a lawyer as well, I know, for that there cannot be a vacuum in our process. I think it was Issa Aremu who said what he thinks we should do is just continue on our trajectory. We can make amendments, we can begin to change our constitution and get our constitution to start reflecting us as a people.
Thank you, Chike.
Yes.
Quickly, let me come to you, Professor Awurawa. From Osun to Nelson Mandela, your take.
Thank you very much. Osun election is very significant in many respects. First, Osun is a southwest state where Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is also from, the leader of the APC and the presidential flag bearer of the party. It's also a state that is so close to, and the candidate in the election is his relation. So it's significant in all of those respects that despite all of that, the PDP's Adeleke has emerged victorious in the election. A whole lot of things can be distilled from, how the election went in the last couple of days. First, the fact that INEC is doing a lot better than previously, and that they also have tried to correct the mistake, the flaw in the last election in Ekiti of vote buying. They paid very close attention to people and limited vote buying to the barest minimum. They also ensured that provisions of the Electoral Act were used maximally to ensure that the election was free and fair. So all of that give hope that moving forward, elections will count. And when elections count, it will compel those who emerge to do well, because they will know that if they don't, in the next election, they'll be voted out. It will also, reduce violence to the barest minimum, because when you lose fairly and squarely, you simply go home or you go to court, and of course, you wait for the outcome from there. So the election is significant in all of those respects. And again, it is the last election, the off-season election before the major elections in 2023. It has given PDP a momentum, but again, we have 6 months to the main election in 2023. There's a whole lot of time for all the parties to make amends where they think they need to do so, such that they can give a good account of themselves in 2023. For Pastor Chris Okotie, well, he spoke well, except that he was idealistic in many of his views. I agree with Issa Aremu in his own submission that the road to freedom is long and there can be tortuous. If we continue to amend the Constitution to meet our needs, that will be fine, even though starting afresh will have been the best course of action. But it's also expensive to get the Constitutional Assembly to begin to make a new Constitution. So when we speak of restructuring, it's really about change. The change in the way an organization, institution is run for maximum benefit and advantage. So if the Constitution is amended in such a way that that change that is positive is achieved, so be it. I agree with what I just mentioned, that there is no provision in the Constitution for interim government, so we can continue to tinker with what we have before we get to where we should be. And then Nelson Mandela Day, yes, very, very significant. A day that focuses on inclusion, a day that focuses on self-sacrifice, a day that focuses on the common good, a day that focuses on building consensus and forgiveness. The world needs that. See, the war that is going on in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, arises from not imbibing the spirit of Nelson Mandela, where issues can be resolved diplomatically, and violence as a way of pursuing state policy is not acceptable. Things like that. So these are issues that the world needs right now to imbibe the spirit of the virtues that Nelson Mandela stood for, and ensure that a better world is created from that. Finally, on Muslim ticket, well, I've said that several times. I don't really look at it so much from the point of view of religion. I look at it from the point of view of inclusiveness. I'm also into conflict studies, and we know from our studies of different countries of the world that countries are better off when there is inclusiveness in governance. The same way as we speak for women, more women being in government. The same way as we speak for youth being in government. Some people try to speak and say, just focus on performance. Are we saying that we cannot find performance in the other group? It is not an either-or thing that, if you pick everybody from one side, then you have performance. You can look for those who can also perform the same thing in other groups and have inclusiveness. Just imagine when Obama became president of the United States in 2008. If he picked 80% of his those who work with him as blacks, Americans wouldn't accept that, even though it's an established democracy. So I look at it from the point of view of inclusiveness. When a government is inclusive, there is more stability, there is more progress. And in the African context where governance has been, characterized by violence and instability. We need that so much. That is why I stand against Muslim ticket.
Well, thank you, Professor Awurawo. Well, let's take this next topic, which should be of interest, and we go to Sri Lanka, where Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has been sworn in as acting president after Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigned in the wake of mass protests against the state of the economy. After his swearing in, the new president promised to restore law and order in the country and establish a unity government. Mr. Wickremesinghe will hold the post until a permanent leader is elected. The acting president remains deeply unpopular amongst the protesters. Hundreds of them fought with security forces and occupied his office on Wednesday. Sri Lanka is facing a crippling shortage of foreign currency reserves and struggling to import food, fuel, and medicine. We take a look at this. Okay, well, that sound on tape. I'm told it's not available. But let me come back to you, Professor Awurawo. What are the lessons that developing countries like Nigeria can learn from Sri Lanka, where a combination of economic foolishness and dynastic narcissism, have both combined to sabotage this country, where leadership became a problem, economic mismanagement became a problem, and a country that used to be a model in the Indian sub-ocean is now an embarrassment. It's defaulted on its payments, and food is not available, medicine is not available, the country cannot even provide fuel, and the people are in dire straits. Professor Awurawo.
Well, there is a lot of lesson to learn from Sri Lanka, which can add to all that you have said, nepotism in government, instead of focusing on, competence that would advance the cause of governance. And of course, corruption, massive corruption in the country, policies that, are not in line with what the country needs to be able to develop, all of that. There's a whole lot that developing countries can, including Nigeria, can learn from what has happened in Sri Lanka. It can happen to any country if the right things are not done. What countries need to do is to ensure that the right policies are adopted and, wealth is created, not living on loans, which is one of the things we've said about Nigeria, that so much of our resources is used in servicing, debts, such that we have very little for development and other things. It is very worrying. We need to take a look at that. We need to, we are talking about lean government that, will not take a large chunk of the resources of the country. And of course, we can also link that to, how much you are spending on fuel subsidy. It is unsustainable. These are things that government must look at, such that the country does not become insolvent like, Sri Lanka has been. You can also link that to even the Osun election. The man has emerged as the governor-elect. What does he do? He should assemble the best people in Osun to, adopt the right policies, create wealth, and move Osun forward, such that the things that the other person who has lost out, didn't do, that made them to vote him out, will not happen. So it's about adopting the right policy, getting the right people to, do the right job, and ensuring that, genuine development takes place, and then the improvement of the quality of life of the people.
Okay, thank you, Professor Awurawo. Professor Akinteriwa, let me come to you. I spoke about dynastic narcissism. The Rajapaksas, they've been in government in Sri Lanka since 1948. Their father was a senator. And after that, they've been producing prime ministers. And at a point, there were about 45 of them occupying different positions in government. One will be prime minister, this one will be minister, that one. And they were very corrupt people. So I talk about dynastic narcissism resulting in corrupt leadership. Okay, in Osun, we just finished an election. The Osun people, their father was also a senator. There was a governor Isiaka Adeleke. There is another governor now. The grandchildren, third generation, they too are already involved in politics. Is dynastic leadership necessarily a problem? And I'm sure you have India in mind also.
You see, you remind me of what Professor Jean-Baptiste Durosel theorized long time ago, that tout empire périra, meaning every empire, every dynasty will perish. So dynasty, whatever your empire may be, can have a beginning, but there's always a time to end that. And the lesson from that is not far-fetched. You can just imagine Wikri Messinge as prime minister. When she took over, the foreign reserve of Sri Lanka was $7.5 billion. But as of today, by the time they are in trouble, only $1 million from 7.5 billion. Now the issue is this: the people of Sri Lanka, what have they been looking at? Were they not monitoring all this? Now, why must we wait for the Sri Lankanization of Nigeria? Now, the issue is that what led to public protest, what pushed the people of Sri Lanka to the wall, prompting their coming back to fight. We are having the dynamics, the factors are there in Nigeria. So we must avoid a situation whereby the Sri Lankan virus is not imported, it's not borrowed, it's not brought to Nigeria. Sri Lankanization of Nigeria will be terrible, more serious than what it is in Sri Lanka. And you can look at what was the population of Sri Lanka?
22 million.
About 22 million. Just like a Lagos State population and its environment. And it used to be a tourist center, like Dr. Abati mentioned, that look, suddenly it's now a country whereby you have to beg in order to have water, to have petrol, to have energy. Now power outage, all those things has now been exported from Nigeria to them. So I think that at the end of the day, if the government of Nigeria does not want answers in the form of Sri Lanka, they must learn lesson to ensure that this rising cost of fuel in Nigeria, all right, does not create unnecessary animosity on the part of the people.
Well, Chike.
Well, Prof talked about this Sri Lankanization of Nigeria. That was what resonated with me. Because I remember, was it not sometime last week while he was in his Salah break in Daura, I think the president said we should be happy that we are better off than most African countries. When I heard that, you know, I said, wow. Anyway, the point is this. You see, once the people start to feel the pressure of bread, that is food, and fuel, energy, like you said, that they would use to cook the food or give themselves whatever little comfort in terms of, you know, whatever they needed to do in their households, that is the beginning of the end.
Yes.
That is the end of the war.
In the 18th century, they stormed the Bastille.
That's right, the French Revolution.
Yes.
So what I would say is that Sri Lanka should be a case study for every civilization, every present civilization, every country right now, that no matter how good it was, once you don't have your matrix of governance in place, and whether it is by a dynasty or just by poor governance or misgovernance or corruption, all the things the different countries are going through, you decide to crash your economy, there will be consequences, as they say. Yeah.
Quite correct. Okay, let me see if I can smuggle in just one more topic. With the judgment of the Federal High Court and all legal encumbrances removed, The Independent National Electoral Commission has announced that the continuous voter registration exercise will officially end by July 31st. This was contained in a statement by INEC National Commissioner in charge of Information and Chairman Voter Education, Festus Okoye. According to the statement, the exercise has also been extended to 8 hours daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. instead of the current duration of 6 hours daily. The exercise is also extended to include weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, as against only weekdays. Okay? NGOs ask for extension. Now, INEC says till the end of the month, people can still register. Do you think that's enough? Or this voter registration should be further extended? Prof, briefly, we have just 3 minutes.
Well, the idea of close ending note, I don't believe in it. When you say July 31st for ending it, is it ending sine die or temporarily? Is it ending for the purposes of 2023 elections? Registration must be ongoing continuously. People attain the age of voting at a particular time. The process must be there. So the way we make governance difficult for ourselves in this country is what I don't know how God himself is going to judge the government of Nigeria.
Chike, your view.
I like the way Prof makes these points. But I agree with Prof. It has to be it has to be a continuous thing because, like he said, new voters are coming in all the time, you know. And again, let everybody look at Osun and take an example from it, in the sense that social media is agog with the young people storming INEC office, registering and all that. Whether they actually made a difference in Osun, we thought that most of them were in the Labour Party, and at least we thought there would be some decent showing of Labour. Nobody expected much from the Labour Party at the gubernatorial or the parliamentary elections. It's a bit too soon for that, if you ask me, though I'm hopeful with whatever they are doing on the presidential level. But all the same, the young people must begin to realize that, you know, this internet thing is very different from actually getting those PVCs and going to use them.
In fact, someone was joking that if you put all the council votes together and you place beside the votes of the 3 other parties, the SDP, the Labour Party, and the Accord Party, the council votes are more than the total votes
so that
Yeah, I would have wanted INEC to further extend the registration process, given the large number of people who are coming out to, try to register to get their PVCs. But since a court has ruled, INEC has the initiative to fix dates of for the elections and for registration for PVC. All well and good. The extension they have given, let them ensure that there is effectiveness. Because even if they stretch it to 2 months, 3 months from now, if they are not effective, not many will be registered. So if they ensure that effectiveness is there with the extended period of time they've given, hopefully they'll be able to capture all of those that want to register, and nobody will be left out. I think they want to do that and end for the next election, get the voter register out and everything, so that things can go smoothly. But I would have wanted a stretch of maybe another month or 2. But since they have said they will end July 31st, they should ensure that the extension of time they have given is maximally utilized and there is effectiveness in the registration. And nobody should be, they should not focus on any group to be disenfranchised. They should ensure that everybody is registered and their PVCs are made ready. And then inform everybody so that they can go and collect the PVCs to exercise their franchise when the elections come up in 2023.
Well, thank you very much, Professor David Awurawa. Thank you, Professor Bola Akintarenwa. Thank you, Chike Ogea. Chike Ogea. Chike. You've been watching This Day Live, this Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next week.